Well, welcome viewers, Reverend Dr. J.W. Morrison, theologist, New South Wales, Australia. I just want to say before I start that anybody at any time can end up with a mental illness. Come through trauma, breakup, can come through life, an accident, can come through alcohol, substance abuse, can come through a car accident, a kiting accident, a sport accident. Trauma can happen at any time. And the best way is to try and prevent it. Excuse me, I'm struggling with a cold. And so the last thing we want is to suffer from any mental illnesses whatsoever. For some people, that's too late. For some people, this has happened to them already. For some people, they're in the fog and the darkness and the torment and the strain and struggles of these things. Some people have brought them on themselves. Some people have received them by way of life and by way of circumstance. Some people have received their mental illnesses by way of trauma. And this isn't fair, but it happens, and it happens all the time. And I wish it didn't happen, but it does. And so I've never set out in any of my videos to try and be cruel or incriminate. I just want to help people from things that could be causing them trauma, but that need not to be. And one of the main things that I've suffered trauma from, tremendous, horrible trauma, in my efforts to try and be a good man and partner to people, has been from covert emotional incest. And the more I talk about it, the more people from across the world are reaching out to me and asking me to tell them more, to try and help them and heal them. Now, healing comes from understanding and knowledge and revelation and inspiration and time. And everybody's circumstances are different. Covert emotional incest can become so overt that people can be murdered, people can get killed, people can be poisoned, people can be attacked, assaulted, maimed. It is not a light subject. It is not something that should be taken lightly. And this is why I keep speaking about it, because I've seen the damage that covert emotional incest can do. Now, a lot of people will go for decades being entrained, conditioned, trying to work out a way in which they can get used to this form of abuse. And what happens is, the harder you try and go along with what's going on, even though you know something's wrong and you're questioning. See, one of the big questions is, am I just jealous of the maternal relationship? And if that's the case, you need to step back and say, oh, okay, and go and get therapy. Go get a second opinion. Just step back, because you don't want to be judgmental. If you're being jealous and judgmental, then you've got some issues you need to deal with immediately, because you'll go narcissistic. Please excuse me for this. You'll go into, from a loving attitude to a resentful, bitter attitude. And it's hard to love and be productive when you're suffering from resentment and bitterness. When unresolved creeps in, these are the things that are going to come up from behind you and sweep the legs out from underneath the relationship. And that's why in some cases there is time for silence, but in other cases there's desperate time to communicate, and to communicate with passion and sincerity, even if it's going to hurt. The truth hurts at first, but once it's penetrated, it changes the whole situation. And sometimes we fear that if we tell the truth, it's going to cost us the relationship anyway. Well, if that be the case, then it was meant to be. And maybe that person wasn't the right person for you or the right person for me. None of us really want to be on our own. I don't think. I never planned to be on my own. By this time in my life, I should have been settled, just coming home and having a happy life with, happy people. But I've been unfortunate in the sense that the people that I've met, I've gotten along with and it's been loving. But the flying monkeys, the spawn, their children, their adult children, just haven't been able to take to the idea that their mother could be loved. And that's been consequential and very detrimental to me in the sense of I've paid a high price. I've paid a high psychological price for the fact that I wanted to be a good man to these women. Covert emotional incest is merciless. It takes no prisoners. It will not stop. It will not relent. Even if your partner, if you be the girlfriend of the golden child, mummy's boy, or you be the boyfriend of the golden child's daddy's girl, or you be the partner of the father or mother that's in covert emotional incest with their children, it will not relent, it will not go away, it will not stop, and you have to have strategies of awareness. Now, the problem with this is if you do bring it to the awareness of your partner, they may not realize it. And I've had a couple of relationships now where I've told these people, look, okay, so I'm in your life now, and I'm starting to see some of the possibilities of things that could happen. And I only share these things if I can see it coming. And sure enough, believe it or not, piece by piece, it all starts to manifest and it all starts to come undone. And then all of a sudden, there's psychological vandalism, emotional assault, psychological abuse and all other stuff taking place because as the supply changes from parent to adult child or adult child to parent, there is a withdrawal no different to a breakup in a relationship. Okay, it's like being in a triangulated affair situation and you're the new person that's come along and you're breaking up the relationship. So that's what it's like. You're like somebody that's come into a marriage and you're splitting up the marriage. That's what it's like. That's what's happening. And if it be the parent towards the son or daughter's partner or the adult child towards the parent, the father or the mother's partner, you have to understand that it's a deep psychological battle now for the emotional supply of the person that you're with. And as I said, it doesn't stop. It takes no prisoners. It's merciless. It will humiliate. It will try and dominate. It will try and incriminate. And it can even get violent. And in some cases, you've got to be careful who you're with. Because I've had a couple of these women try and set up situations where I could have easily been in a situation where there was violence. And that doesn't work for me. I'm not into violence. I don't care about violence. If I wanted to do violence, I'd go back to boxing or taekwondo or something. But no, I chose to be a Christian years and years ago, and I've stuck by that as best I can with what I've had thrown at me. And you would not believe. But yeah, one of the things that covert emotional incest will try and do to you is demasculinize you or defeminize you. Again, depending on the combination. And it will work away at your masculinity or femininity to try and this is in the spiritual realm. This is in the soul realm, right? This is all soul and spiritual assault and vandalism. and it will try and make you look weak in front of, say, for instance, I'm with the mother. The psychological vandalism and emotional abuse that's going on tries to demasculinize you so that the person you're with has the impression that the child or the parent is more masculine or feminine than the partner that they have. Okay, that's the object, because if they can defeminize you or demasculinize you, that's going to change the deep internal, saying, for instance, the woman, this is going to sound crazy, but it's going to change her hypergamy, her sense of security and devotion and loyalty back towards the covert emotional incest. This is how evil it is. Okay, there's language going on in the spirit realm and soul realm that's working hard to try and break the outside person off and away from their interference in the covert and emotional incest. Okay? And these people aren't even aware of it. Excuse me. But again, I apologize. I've got a bit of a cough. But I've got to get this message out. And so when the covert emotional incest has gone overt and is now in vandalism and assault mode towards who you are, the first thing I recommend is, as I said before, disengage. Don't get involved, right? Exit stage left. And try and get to a place, because what you'll see, this will happen at a family function, it'll happen in a quiet afternoon, Sunday afternoon, sitting on the veranda. This can happen at any time. Covert emotional incest can go overt. And when it manifests, it's nasty. It's not good, because this has been building up in these people for months, depending on how long you've been around. It's usually going to go overt in the first 6 months. Something's big's going to happen. Okay, and remember, you're trying to build a relationship with somebody you really don't know. And when you come into a covert emotional incestual situation, you've got no idea of it if you've never heard of it before. But if you know what it is and you start to see it manifest, you've got to ask yourself, do I continue on, or am I putting these people into a situation of stress that's not going to work for them and probably not going to work for me? And that's the hard question. How much value do you have for that person? And I've pushed things further, probably in some cases than I should have. And I don't know how it all, I don't know who benefited or who didn't. I don't think anybody benefited because of the covert emotional incest. There was never going to be any benefit, because it was never going to allow there to be any benefit. This is what happens. Nobody wins when there's covert emotional incest. The problem is, however, when you're the outsider, you better have yourself intact. You better be able to be comfortable with yourself. Because if the person that you're with starts to manifest over the unresolved and they can't soothe themselves with you anymore because the unresolved's connected to you, but it's not. It's usually between the covert incestual couple, and because it's gone overt, then if that can't get put into line and fixed through therapy or whatever these people are going to decide to do, then you ultimately will be removed, because you're the cause of unresolved, even though you're not. But the thing is, if they get you out of the way, then that's that problem out of the way, and they just find somebody else. They'll cause a reverse discard. They'll start doing things that they know are going to trigger you, and then they'll probably make it happen in a way in which they can say, well, at least I tried to resolve it, even if you didn't agree in the method. They're good at what they do, and if you've got any brains, you'll go, okay, this person wants a reverse discard, and you carefully and immediately ask for the person to go and cancel the relationship, because you're dealing with powers and elements that are not fair. They're not going to fight fair. And if you're in a situation where there's alcohol, medication, or drugs or anything, these people, if they do default, they're just going to default back into the covert emotional incest, and you'll be left stranded anyway. So you have to really be in touch with yourself 100%. So with that said, the best thing for you to do really is just to maintain your independence. Still be a good man and a good lover and a good person and all that. But if you're in any way become aware of covert emotional incest, the parent and the adult child being too close, then you need to get a second opinion and sit down and speak to somebody that knows about covert emotional incest, and try and make a strategy for a way in which you can become aware of the motive of the person that you're with, because a lot of these people will just need to facilitate you for sex if you're any good at it. If you're good at it, they're going to come back and they're going to have a need for that supply. Don't worry, if the shit hits the fan, they'll replace you pretty quick. You're just a means to an end. You're not as important as you think. That's how covert emotional incest works. Once it's busted and you say, okay, I know what you're about. I know what all this weird behaviour's about. I know why so-and-so don't like me. And you tell them to go, they'll go, because that's the problem out of the way. They don't see themselves as a problem. That'd be your delusion to think that they see anything sane about the way in which they're treating you. That's their normal. You've got to understand that you're dealing with covert narcissism as well, because anything that has to do with nastiness or decharacterization or villainization or abuse is in some way related to narcissism. And we've all got elements of narcissism, but this is a severe brain injury, can be a terrible brain injury come out of all this stuff, because you're going in the opposite way of what your mind is telling you to go. You're saying to yourself, I can make this relationship work. This person that I'm with, they're trying to. But usually you'll find they're split, and they're splitting between you and the covert emotional incest relationship. And you will come out second best. I'm sorry, but that's just how it is. So you need to have your self-awareness intact. You need to put your self-care first. You need to make sure your self-preservation is in order. And most of all, you need to make sure that your mental health is in order and there is no codependency in the relationship, because at any tick of the clock, that could go skew-if, and you may never hear from this person again, particularly if they are a covert narcissist. They're going to bung on the silent treatment. They're going to do it micro-incrementally. Things will start to get quieter and quieter until they go for the reverse discard, which will be putting you in a situation where they know you will ask them to go, and they will go, and you'll probably never hear from them again. That's the evil of covert emotional incest. That's how it works. And then that's just how it works. And you've got to move on. That's why I've got several hobbies, all of which I can do in conjunction with my relationships without neglecting anyone. And you'll find a lot of these people, it's sad to say, but they don't have anything to show for themselves. They've made wrong decisions all their lives. They've giving themselves over to substances or alcohol or both, or medications or both or all. It's pretty sad out there, guys, and you can offer someone love and support and companionship, and that may not guarantee you anything, because as time wears on, some people just do not or will not be able to be that kind of companion back, and that's a kick in the face. But you have to accept that some people just are not going to make it with you. That's it. And all you can do is however it ends up. For me, I've had to tell the last two to F off, which I'm not proud about, but that's the state I got to. That's the state I got driven to. And you might say, well, you didn't have to do that. Well, you weren't there. I'm telling you, covert emotional incest is a very ugly, vicious, poisonous parasite. It gets right into the back of your mind and starts eating away at your mental health. And you try and stay devoted and you try and stay loyal, and it's pulling you apart. It's tearing you to shreds. And you don't know why, because you don't know what covert emotional incest is. Check it out. It's really important. A lot of you guys and girls and boys and women have suffered from this, and it's not worth it. I hope this helps. This is Reverend Dr. J.W. Morrison, theologist. You can contact me on the details on the site, on the page if you want to, and we can have a quick talk. But for now, from the Central Coast, New South Wales, bye for now.